since we're running, we'll probably have to wrap up fairly soon. A couple of sort of wrap up questions, which is one, was Cooper at the end, was he convinced that this photo deal was worth it since it kept the AP in the photo business in Germany when everybody else was out? And by the way, it's worth pointing out that, as you do in the book, that there was a high AP executive in London, Gideon Seymour, who had actually advised to cut, to pull out, that it was not worth the price. In retrospect, how was that viewed by Cooper and others? Did they continue feeling that they had made the right calls?
I think we don't really know that for sure. But I think to the extent that Cooper did understand, we're not even entirely sure who knew exactly how this thing operated. There's AP executives said, well, we told the US Censorship Office about this deal and they approved it. Well, the documentation that exists of that indicates that they gave a very skimpy explanation of what was actually going on. They never mentioned the German diplomatic pouches being used, for example. They just said, from time to time we get photos from the front, they're German photos, but they come to us via Portugal. And are you okay if we take those and if we, send some back? And that was approved. Was there skimpy description to be, deceptive to get the approval, or did the executives not really understand how the whole thing worked? I don't think we know that. But it is clear that the photo deal was very important to Cooper as a business deal, part of that scheme of, I'm going to bring truth to the world, text and photos to the entire world via AP, which had been a very America-centric organization.
And it was also, there was a financial incentive, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these are, we started by saying we're not going to judge in retrospect, but do you have any, you want to judge in retrospect? You want to give your 2 cents? I think, Randy, you made very clear your feeling, for instance, that Lochner made decisions that you felt were quite defensible. How about you, Anne? How far do you want to go with that?
Yeah, well, I think the photo operation you can pick apart, and we've, Randy has mentioned Franz Roth. We could spend another 30 minutes on him. He was the Waffen SS photographer who was also off and on the AP payroll, and he was somebody who some of the executives at AP said, why do we keep rehiring this guy? So there were voices out there trying to say, we should be more careful. Why are we hiring a Nazi photographer? And I guess I wish those voices had been listened to some more.
Yeah, and then just on the other part of it, the news operation, which was a different operation, the battle of self-censorship. How do you think, your 2 cents worth, was the self-censorship to the right degree, or was it over, or did Lochner and others go too far? What's your own feeling on that?
I think Lochner could have pushed the envelope more than he did. I think he probably knew that too, but we weren't there. We weren't facing those decisions. And I think the really striking thing was how much did get reported, and I don't think we've gotten enough credit for that.
Right.
And what did you say, Ann?
That AP has not gotten enough credit for how much they were able to report, despite all the censorship and restrictions.
Right. I found some of the AP staffers, like Melvin Whiteleather and others, and even the German national who worked with the staff. He wrote an unveiling story about how there's no free press, that thousands of German publications were were terminated, and only Nazi propaganda publications exist. And he wrote that story without a byline. And like I mentioned, Jerry Whiteleather writing the story about the army of 2 million Nazi Party members who were informing on their neighbors, I think was very courageous. But I'm proud of how AP reported up until 41. The questionable thing was the photo deal, and transparency, because there wasn't enough. I feel there wasn't enough transparency on the photo captions to identify the sourcing. When the photos were disseminated in Germany to the German media, the photos identified that these were PK information, PK from the PK propaganda company. They clearly identified, but when it was published in the US, it didn't clearly identify the source. It didn't say it was from PK propaganda companies, and there was an AP editor's note saying that you don't have, when it's clear where the photo is from, you don't have to say German sources say, you don't have to say the origins of it, which could make it murkier. But I'm very proud on the News Bureau. And then there are a lot of issues, baggage with the photo, because Cooper clearly prioritized commercial, the commercialization and the business over journalist ethics with the photo deal.
Okay. Well, Randy, and thank you so much. I think there's obviously a lot more we could talk about, but I think you've really laid it out. I hope all of you will read this book. It's Newshawks in Berlin. It really does give a sense of the times, the place, and the personalities very well. So thank you all, and thanks for everyone who attended. I tried to get to, I think, most of the questions. If I missed yours, I apologize. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.